Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien here on the morning of Wednesday, September 6th, I believe. Yeah, 6th, 2023. Stand by for commentary. Well, today's commentary is on ancient Egypt's sarcophagus. And since Napoleon's visit to Egypt in 1798 and the subsequent discovery of the pyramids and the empty sarcophagus in the pyramid, and people have been saying, those were, the pharaoh was buried in there, but somebody came and robbed him. Well, and in 1820, John Champollion got the Rosetta Stone, and you could finally see what the Egyptians were trying to tell you. Do you know 100% for sure what they were trying to tell you in those hieroglyphics? No, maybe 75, 80%, yeah. But most Egyptologists can tell you they don't know 100% what Egyptians did or what they're just going on suppositions and assumptions and guesses in the most part. But why the pyramid shape? Why the sarcophagus? Well, you must understand the way the Egyptians looked at things. It's like you taking, say, a B-2 bomber and landing it right in front of General George Washington. Yeah, that would be something, wouldn't it? Yeah. Now, remember that the B-2 bomber is a triangular-shaped, strange-looking vehicle. Okay? And you got General George Washington with his top-notch guys there, and they're looking at this thing like, makes a lot of noise, yeah, a lot of fire, yeah. But what do you mean a jet engine? Yeah. We try to explain that to General George Washington. Because, he's about 200 years away from what a jet engine is, let alone what an airplane is. But remember, the concept of airplanes was known back then. Heck, even before General Washington's time, Leonardo da Vinci knew about the concept of that. The Egyptians knew it way back then. They had articles that they have built even in the modern times, and those are flyable, very much aerodynamic. So, you got a B-1 bomber and you got George Washington looking at it. It's like a spaceship lands in the shape of a pyramid in, say, most people say, 3100 BC. Yeah. But I say more like 10,000 BC. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And these people are far more advanced even than us because they have traveled interstellar travel. But they're not as advanced as you think they are. They're maybe 200, maybe 100 years more advanced than us. today at the time. And their ship was not as big as the pyramids. And this is superstition, I know. But then again, in 1968, a certain Swedish guy, or Swiss guy, Eric van Daniken, created the Chariots of the Gods, and he got, oh boy, did he get laughed out of academia and trashed and everything. But guess what? His book was a #1 bestseller. And no subsequent book have been right up there. And now you have the archaeologists who trashed him back in 1968. Their descendants are saying, oh, whoa, what? You mean there's something true about this book? Yeah, they're finding all kinds of stuff that's been throwing their archaeology upside down. It's like the United States with their Roswell incident in 1947 that they're going to have to come clean soon because they're going to have a problem. Yeah. Well, as an alien from another planet, think of a society that's basically 100 to 120, 150 years more advanced than you guys. Today, they came to see you back in 10,000 BC in a pyramid-shaped vehicle powered by, well, one of the powers was probably element 115. Yo-ho! Yeah. Element 115. And an element that you guys don't know yet, element 172. You won't find that out for another 20 years. But anyway, I'm just telling you what you guys have. It's here, it's in the moon. You do some mining in the moon, you'll find element 172. Heck, even mercury is a good thing. It's a slow thing, but mercury, you can make it anti-gravity out of mercury, you know. The scientists can tell you they're starting to look at mercury as a viable transportation piece. Yeah. But going back to the ancient Egyptians, this sarcophagus, and just think of yourselves as General George Washington and, you know, the pilot of the V2 or the, you know, the B2, and he comes out of his thing with his nice suit and helmet and oxygen stuff. Yeah, well, he looks kind of funny, don't he? Yeah. And George Washington is asking, why do you have that? And he's saying, well, you need this because it's pressure, and I got a pressurized cabin, but I still need these to sustain me through the G-forces. Oh, try to explain G-forces to General Washington. That'll be fun, wouldn't it? Yeah. But anyway, it's like the guy is trying to explain to the Egyptians how you operate this vehicle. And the Egyptians, you know, he takes, say, either the pharaoh or his first guy, like Imhotep, over there, and say he takes both of them, Imhotep and the pharaoh, and they both go into the ship. And the ship's got all these things in it, you know. Hey, you ever been in a American ship? Say an aircraft carrier. You have no writing on it. That's why, you know, the Great Pyramid has no hieroglyphics in it. But it does have strategic rooms and strategic places. And they come into this room, And there's nothing but these little chambers, as you call them, with the tops all up. And the guy asks, what are these? And the aliens are saying, well, this is what we use to travel. It takes a long time to get here, and we have to use stasis chambers. But, it's try to explain the B-2 to General Washington. It's the same way as you're trying to explain this to the Egyptians. Now, the Egyptians say, so you have to travel there, and they're trying to explain it that you got suspended animation. So you put yourself in one of these little chambers, stasis chambers. It closes out, and it's got its own environment and stuff like that, and it monitors your system. You're technically, but not all the way dead, okay? And when you come back, you revive, and you're home. But imagine the Egyptians at the time, they don't understand this, so they're trying their best to understand it, so they're saying, okay. And through their limited understanding, they're thinking, then that means that the Pharaoh will die. We can take him to your home to see you guys, but it takes a long time, so we have to put him in our version of your stasis. But unlike you, they can't create the big top that comes down and glass. Because remember, they don't know how to create glass yet. That's something that the Egyptians never learned how to do, is create glass, okay? So they do the next best thing. They create a top to it with a version of the Pharaoh as they see the individual there. And mind you, they're looking at this individual that's sitting in the stasis, and it's a little cold, so the guy has to wipe out the thing, and they're seeing a nice guy there. They can't duplicate that, but they can do the next best thing. They can keep his body more or less intact as a mummy, take over his organs, because he's going to need those, so they got to put him in jars, and then they'll put him back in, and he said, they'll find a way to revive him when he gets up there. And he'll need food, because he'll need something to eat when he gets up. He'll be hungry. So they do all this, and he'll need people to help him, so let's kill him, put him in there, and then they'll be revived too. Okay. How they got that idea? Well, that is up in the questions. Both the astronaut theories, they can't help you on that. I can't, because I don't understand the Egyptians' way of thinking at the time, but they came up with that on themselves, okay? The aliens probably helped them create and gave them rudimentary anti-gravitational devices that they could move heavy stones around so they could get them. But these aliens, unbeknownst to aliens later, in this time period, didn't understand that if you interfere with another life form, if you give them information, they don't comprehend it, let alone understand it. It could be dangerous for them. And what happened with the Egyptians, they developed this into a way of thinking, religious and social. And it lasted for a few centuries. They got away from it because you notice that after 2000 BC, they didn't do any more of these. Probably because they lost the knowledge on how to do it. If you're not there to help you, if you give them the information, a couple of generations will do it, but the generations afterwards, because they don't have the generation before that helps them, you lose that particular knowledge. So therefore, Americans, I stick with Mr. Eric Van Daniken in his version of events under Chariots of the Gods. He's on the right track. And those guys that came in with the Egyptians, and that's why you got Orion, that doesn't mean that they came from those 3 stars in Orion. They came from that area. You got a lot of stars in that area that you don't even know about because those 3 stars are so bright that unless you take a spaceship and go past those stars, you'll see other stars that you can't see because they're behind them. Okay? And one of those star systems is probably the home of your ancestors, the Egyptians. This is your favorite alien saying, good day.